It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, today is Super Bowl Sunday and anybody but Tom Brady Day. That's right. And can you shoot someone for using hate speech? Aren't you smart enough to use conflict resolution to deal with someone that says something you don't like?
It is yet the latest head-shaking incident that will leave you wondering what has gotten into people. 3 people are dead today, a married couple and their neighbor, and the reason is unbelievable. The couple was shoveling snow and tossing it on the neighbor's property. Words were exchanged, and then came gunfire. Stephen Fabian has our report, and we warn you, the video is disturbing.
It's an argument between neighbors. It happened during that huge snowstorm that hit the nation this week. The dispute, snow shoveling.
Step out here, I'll knock your ass out.
Within minutes of the nasty fight breaking out, all 3 of these people will be dead. Police say James and Lisa Goy were shoveling snow onto their neighbor's property near Scranton, Pennsylvania. They started yelling insults at each other.
I'll make your life live in hell living here.
But then 47-year-old Jeffrey Spade pulls out a handgun. You can hear the woman dare him to shoot.
Go ahead!
And then he does. The first 4 bullets miss, but then the husband is hit. We're freezing the video. You can hear him scream out. Then his wife is gunned down.
Oh my God!
Stunned neighbors come out of their homes.
Are you okay? You want help up? Are you okay?
They all run away when they see their neighbor coming back, armed this time with an assault rifle. At this point, the husband and wife are both still alive, but seriously wounded. The video shows Jeffrey Spade deliberately walking over to them. He's shouting profanities at them, and then he shoots them again at close range, killing them both.
We have 2 victims in the street.
Once more, the killer retreats to his house, and it's there that police say he takes his own life.
Subject might be in the house. We heard 1 single gunshot. He may be down.
Very sad.
Next-door neighbor Jamie says the murdered couple were like family.
You're on your front porch. This all happened, like right here, right in front of your front porch.
Yes. Yeah. I saw everything with him walking down the driveway shooting, going back up, getting the rifle and coming back down. And I'm fortunate to be here today.
No, you don't put your snow on my property!
We've seen people lose their cool over shoveling the snow before. These 2 guys start hitting each other with their shovels.
Crazy? Go ahead!
But the conflicts rarely lead to the kind of tragedy that struck this quiet neighborhood.
Wow. The couple who was killed has a 15-year-old son who was home at the time of the shooting. He's now staying with his grandparents.
All right, insane. Okay, so James McCoy, 50, and his wife, Lisa Coy, 48, were gunned down at close range in the middle of their street in Plains Township, Pennsylvania. But you know what? There's more. This is Black History Month. We need to honor that. So let's go to Florida. All right, so a Florida woman in a Florida Gator shirt, and this is dedicated to my sister. My sister is a graduate of the University of Florida. Go Gators! And let's see what her... a representative from her school, alma mater, had to say. We're going to take a look at that a little later. And also in Hamilton, Georgia, Police Chief Gene Allman has resigned, and one of his officers were fired as this video surfaced of a racist conversation in which they casually drop the N-word and say slavery met the needs of black people. And also, a 25-year-old married to a 60-year-old man sitting courtside at a Lakers game. Was it Lakers?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lakers. Okay. All right. So Lakers game made a rude comment to LeBron James. Because I'm not a big fan of LeBron myself. I'm sorry. Don't send any hate messages to me. In it with the double, thrown the couple. Sorry, thrown from the game. So we're gonna look at those videos. Man, we got some good stuff for you today. We're gonna talk with Jason English. He's an attorney in Austin, Texas. He's a former county assistant county attorney. Going to talk to him about his experience with the DA's office, the district attorney's office. Talk to him about some things that are going on in Austin. What about the riots? What about these people that are being that were charged with crimes they committed during the riot? Are they going to be prosecuted? We're going to talk a little bit about that. But I do want to talk about we need to start using conflict resolution. At some point. Just because someone says something you don't like, I don't care if it's the N-word, whatever it is, hate speech, whatever you want to say, you can't always, you just can't shoot someone because they're saying something that you disliked. You cannot make someone do what you don't want them to do. But what we can do is control our own actions. We can control ourselves. We can control what happens inside our home and our property and all that stuff, but we cannot make someone else do what they don't want to do. So just because someone's using hate speech, you know what? I encourage people, go ahead and use that hate speech. I like to know where all my races are located. So that way I don't have to deal with them. So don't make it a crime. It should not be a hate speech. There are people out here that want to make this a hate speech. It should be illegal, a crime for someone to use bad words, bad language. And I totally disagree. What do you think, Zach?
Well, that will just suppress the people who normally would talk about it and you would know who they are, right?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And I think they should be allowed to do it. You should be allowed to say, you have a freedom of speech. Say what you want. If you want to use bad language, you want to use the N-word, you want to say something just nasty to someone, you should be able to say it. I love to say nasty things to people every now and then.
Yeah, they recorded that woman just going on that racist tirade.
Oh, man. Wait till we show you this video. What do you think, Felicia?
I mean, absolutely. Hate speech is still free speech, but free speech does not mean that you're free from consequences.
Yeah.
So if you're going to run your mouth, you should also be prepared for someone's fist to make contact with your face if they deem it necessary.
What did Mike Tyson say? He said, we've gotten just way too used to being able to say whatever we want to people online and not get punched in the face.
Yeah. It just, hey, and someone may call your bluff. You say, bring it on. Come on. I don't believe you. You're not going to do it. You know what? You may just push them over the edge. They just might do it. So you might want to use conflict resolution, try to calm that situation down. You need to talk to people like they're an adult and you're talking to another adult. Don't talk to someone like you're the parent talking to a child. That's not the way to handle situations like that. So we need to start using conflict resolution and start calming those situations down so that we can get through whatever it is that's going on. Road rage, whatever it is, don't engage in what's going on. And we know we've gone too far. When you've honked that horn, when you've tapped those brakes and, you're trying to get someone to, bump you or something like that. Don't do stuff like that. Let that stuff go. There's something going on in that person's life at that moment in time. And you know what? You could push them over the edge. So just let it go. Sometimes the best thing to do is just let it go and get on down the road. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were complying with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about, can you shoot someone just because they're using hate speech? And should hate speech be, should there be something that you can use force or deadly force just because someone's using it? And should it be a hate crime? Well, you know what? And I think no, it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be a hate crime. I don't think you should be able to shoot someone just because they're saying something that you don't like. Just because someone is saying something that's very rude, disrespectful, they're saying something very nasty. There is something called disorderly conduct. If you're using vulgar language in public, you can be charged under disorderly conduct. We're going to talk with Jason English, who used to be a district assistant DA. Sorry about that. With the Travis County DA's office. Talk to him about that. I hope I have that title correct. We'll get him to correct me if I'm wrong. And then, but you know what? Let's go to Florida real quick. Florida woman in Florida Gator shirt goes on a racist rant in Lee County, Florida. Check this out.
Portion was all captured on a cell phone. That video posted to social media where hundreds are now speaking out in anger.
And if you think I'm gonna have a tell me he's not moving off my driveway?
A racist rant all over a truck parked on the road. Will Osley and Melvin Finley own a moving company. On Saturday, they were in Lee County unloading a truck. That's when this woman, Gina Brashear, got mad that the truck was blocking the road.
Me and him are on the back of the truck. We're still working. We're still unloading the sheets of metal onto the pallet. We start hearing this commotion on the other side of the truck, just getting louder and louder and more intense.
That's the moment when the customer, who didn't want to speak to me out of fear, starts capturing this video. In 30 seconds, Brashear unloading a racist rant.
And if you think I'm gonna have a tell me he's not moving off my driveway, I can use the word oh god mother.
That wasn't it.
Good, the cops are coming. Tell them I called y'all what the ever. I didn't call y'all. I called that fat
say that.
Now for your trailer. I can't say please bring it to me in writing.
She screamed the N-word 6 times in just half a minute.
I've been, insulted before. It's nothing new to me. But this time around, it's a little, I don't know, it just feels a little different. It feels bigger than me.
I went to Brashear's home. She didn't want to come out to talk on camera, but she spoke with me on the phone.
And over the course of the video,
say it 100 times in 30 seconds. There's nothing illegal about saying it.
do you feel that it's okay to use that derogatory word?
Absolutely. Do I have reasons to be racist? Absolutely, I do.
I asked her about people calling her racist online.
One thing you need to get straight from coming from me. I don't care who's upset. I don't care that I'm called a racist.
To Melvin and Will, this is bigger than just affecting them, and they hope it's the catalyst of change.
It's 2021, man. I don't know. We have a very long way to go. We have not come as far as we claim. We have a long way to go.
I tell you, you know what? I like Gina Brashear, because she lets me know how she feels, and I'm glad. I want someone to let me know how they feel. But you know what? I like to dedicate this to my sister, who's a graduate of University of Florida, because you know what? University of Florida, they don't produce nothing but trash at that university. Nothing but trash. I'm telling you right now. So you know what? And don't call me at the office, at the gun store. Don't tell me how much you hate me, because I don't care. Okay? They're nothing but trash at the University of Florida. Go Gators! All right, so let me bring into the conversation Jason English. He's an attorney in Austin, Texas. Jason, welcome to Come and Talk It, sir.
Hey, thanks, Michael. This is Jason English. I'm a former prosecutor who represents good people facing criminal and drunk driving charges.
All right, so Jason, tell me, can I know this is not one of the things you prosecuted people for when you were an assistant district attorney, but, tell me, can I shoot someone for hate speech?
Well, I mean, let me tell you, let's say that it goes forward and we've got 12 people in a box and we've got a jury trial. And at some point, when you talk about self-defense, and self-defense is a justification. And if we were to get the law from the judge would tell you that whether it's deadly force or whether it's non-deadly force, words are not going to be enough to allow you to use self-defense, whether it's deadly or not. And so I would say that you would not be able to get a defensive instruction if you were prosecuted to be able to say that you were justified in shooting someone in response to hate speech.
Right.
You're going to need more.
Now, what about disorderly conduct? And what do you think about that? Because disorderly conduct, you use hate speech, in public out loud, using, profanity out loud, you can be charged with disorderly conduct.
Totally. And you could get, you would have to balance the equities between First Amendment rights and then hate speech. What is the difference and what is it more in line with? It used to be a lot more clear than kind of where we find ourselves as a community now and what's kind of the more acceptable, or maybe not acceptable, but maybe the normal language that's heard, even if it's acceptable or not. And so I think some of those clear definitions between this is not protected under the First Amendment have probably been a little diminished.
Okay. And then let's talk about the Travis County DA's office. Travis County DA Jose Garza has indicted 2 police officers for brutality doing a drug bust that I guess it happened like 2 years ago. Hey, Zach, tell us about that case.
Yeah, so it just happened that a Travis County grand jury indicted 2 APD officers on charges of aggravated assault by a public servant because of an incident that happened in March 2019 during a drug bust.
Okay. And then, man, Jason, so is it, how difficult is it to prosecute a police officer? Because this is this DA here is actually the first one is taking this stance on bringing multiple police officers under indictment.
Well, I think that prosecuting anybody is going to be similar. I think that and I prosecuted police officers, and on the defense side, I've represented a lot of police officers as a defense lawyer. It still has to go through all the steps and channels. You got an IA investigation, you've got all the different, usually it's going to be a different law enforcement agency. Maybe the Texas Rangers or somebody's going to step in and look at the stuff, but it's still a matter of, do we think that we could prove it on the prosecution side? And then the other thing too is, do we think that the community would back us up if it went to a jury trial, or do we think that it would be reasonable or something? I'm not familiar with the 2 officers from, I think it was an 18 case.
Right.
I think it was previously cleared from what I thought from the previous administration, but I don't know the facts of the ag assault out of a drug bust.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into the facts. I just want to talk about just things on the surface here. Like, for example, aren't there some things that actually cover police officers, from immunity from certain things, and then also go ahead.
No, I was just saying totally. Officers are going to have official immunity that's going to shield them from stuff, and that's what even recently, what was the one case where there was a shooting at that bank on 38th Street a couple years back, and the officer, I think they tried to try it federally and it didn't go.
Right.
But that's the question that we're going to be faced with in the future is because essentially law is just a reflection of society's needs, and the argument's going to be made that maybe the immunity that officers and even prosecutors have, isn't going to be a such a believed in thing, that some of these things that are going to actually be erosions in it, and that we may not have immunity in the future. I would assume that those are probably going to be inroads made legislatively to try to reduce or limit the immunity that officers have.
You said prosecutors also have immunity?
Prosecutors have prosecutorial immunity, correct.
What does that entail?
It's the same thing as long as whatever you're doing in your official capacity, it would keep you from being sued as a result of whatever actions you took.
I see. Okay. And then on police officers of the court, so the whole system is really designed to protect the police officer. Like, the police department investigates themselves, for pretty much, the Austin Police Department has an internal affairs division that actually does the investigation. It's not always that the Texas Rangers are actually called in. And then you have the court, the DA, you guys work, closely with the
Correct.
police department. So it doesn't look favorable on the DA if they're actually prosecuting the people that they're supposed to work with and who are actually tasked to actually protect them as well.
I think it would definitely complicate stuff, and it could make it hard to be a persuasive case. But I do think, though, that looking back, I've seen a lot of times where an outside agency was tasked with and handled the investigation. At least that's what I was familiar with. And again, I'm not sure how these last two of them were handled.
All right. And then, man, I tell you, we're going to talk about some other videos. There's some other videos I definitely want to show you guys, because you have the one where the couple the police chief in Hamilton, Georgia, he actually was sitting there talking to one of his other deputies. And the whole thing behind this is they were actually having a conversation, but they didn't think their body cameras were working. So what they did was they took the body cameras, they turned them in to, because they said, hey, these body cameras aren't working properly. They're not recording. So when they brought them in, the people that were reviewing the body camera footage says, oh, you know what? It's working great. As a matter of fact, this video here, and we'll show that video when we come back from the break, shows some really crazy stuff. So we're going to talk about that. Also, a 25-year-old married to a 60-year-old man sitting courtside at a basketball game had some words with LeBron James. And boy, let me tell you, that couple was thrown from the game because of those words. And LeBron said, you know what? And I like the way LeBron James handled that situation. He said, they should not have been thrown from the game. Just because someone says something, we had some words between two adults. He said what he had to say. I said what I had to say. And then that was that. And they shouldn't have been thrown from the game. We're going to talk about that when we come back from the break. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard. quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being...
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, over in Hamilton, Georgia, Police Chief Gene Ullman has resigned, and one of his officers, they were fired after this video surfaced of a racist conversation in which they casually dropped the N-word and say slavery met the needs of black people. Take a listen to this.
Well, you didn't have to shoot him, it's just a taser. Then how come when you tase a f***ing nigger, it's like you done killed him 27 times? If I had a f***ing nigger, I'd rather f*** the mayor than Stacey Abrams. Yes, sir.
911 Hamilton.
Hamilton.
I don't own no slaves. My folks didn't own no slaves.
Hey,
what are we talking about? 200 f***ing years ago?
Hey, I do a lot of stuff on my family history, on Ancestry. I did find evidence of some slave-owning part of my family, even though we're from Ohio and there's nobody up there. But I'm going to tell you, looking at Chris's family, holy shit. Man, let me tell you what. After the Civil War was over with, he became an overseer on a plantation. So he was in charge of all the slaves.
It seems to me like they furnished
All right.
him a house.
Okay, so, man, I tell you, he says, man, let me tell you, my family didn't own slaves, but let me tell you, look at that Chris's family.
Holy.
Whoa, Chris and them, they own. Chris was the overseer. He was the slave master. He used to beat them. This is hilarious to me. You can't ban hate speech. Man, people be serious about this stuff. This is some good comedy stuff. You take this stuff to the stage, you make a joke out of this stuff. You let people say what's on their mind. You know what? It doesn't hurt you. So, you listen to it, you laugh about it, and that way you know where these people are. That's why I love Facebook. I love social media. It lets me know where all the races are. Don't get upset about stuff like that. Use conflict resolution. Let that stuff go. If you get upset about stuff like that, then you're that type of person that's quick to pull the gun out and use it when you're not supposed to. No, gun's not for every single situation. Sometimes you got to be that smarter person, that bigger person, and calm down. And it's life is like a chess match. Got to play chess. And in the end, you get to the end piece. Got to check the queen of the other side. What do you think? What are you saying?
Yeah, I think if you just have the ongoing beef with your neighbors, then you're doing something wrong in life. If you can't get along with the people that live next to you,
And there's a lot of people that's like that. I tell you, have fights with their neighbors. What are you gonna say, Felicia?
I was just gonna say it would have been very easy for all the adults in that situation to end it by just going into their home.
Oh yeah,
And then simply, not being a crappy neighbor and putting snow in your neighbor's yard. Is it a stupid thing to do? Yes. Is it even stupider to get mad about it? Sure. But once it hits a certain point of escalation, go into your house and finish later.
And we're talking about the snow shoveling thing that happened in Pennsylvania now. So basically what happened was this couple, the husband and the wife, James Coy and Lisa Coy, were shoveling snow from their yard, their driveway. And they shoved the snow into the neighbor's yard across the street. So that neighbor across the street gets upset about it, comes outside. They have some words, and they're like, you know what? James and Lisa were like, what are you going to do about it? You know, you're not going to do nothing. You know, you're a wimp and all this other stuff and da-da-da-da-da and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, what are you going to do? Well, the guy goes into his house, gets a gun, comes outside. And ladies and gentlemen, listen, when you're in a situation where, you know, like road rage, you're having an incident, you don't know what's going on in a person's life. You don't know where they are in that moment in time. You know, maybe someone died in their family. Maybe their house is being foreclosed on. Maybe their dog just died. Something like that. Something that could be going on in their life, and you just intersected with that person, and now you pushed them to the, it was that little incident that just pushed them over the edge. And they're like, that was the last straw. And you just called them on that bluff, and they kept calling. What are you gonna do? He goes into the house. He gets a gun. He comes out. And they're like, what are you gonna do? Do it. I dare you. I dare you. What did he do?
He did it.
They got learnt. Let me tell you, boy, they got learnt because he did it. He pulled his gun out. He shot the husband. He shot the wife, and they started screaming. He ran out of the first 5 shots missed, and that's pathetic. Let me tell you, they were so close. He actually missed the first 5 shots. We talk about this in class. We shoot from the 3-yard line, the 7-yard line, and the 15-yard line. The license to carry handgun course. And I talk about how when we're at the 3-yard line, we shoot 20 rounds, and I can tell if anyone is not in the 10 area at the 3-yard line, they're going to miss the entire target when we get back to the 15-yard line. So this guy shoots 5 shots, he misses, and then the 6-shot hits, the 7-shot hit, 8-shot, he runs out of ammunition, goes back into his house, gets a rifle, an AR-15, I believe, comes back outside. They're both on the ground screaming. He goes up to the wife and says, I told you to shut up, and shoots her. Let me tell you something, people. When you're dealing with someone who is calm and relaxed, you might not want to mess with them. That person's really relaxed. I don't mess with calm people. If I'm sitting there and I'm talking to someone and I'm getting upset and that person's really calm and relaxed, you know what? It's time for me to go.
That's the old proverb, right? Don't mess with the quiet one.
Yeah, that's why I don't mess with Zach, because Zach is quiet. And I know Zach crazy.
Yeah, you don't know what I'm going to do.
That's why we made him sit over there today.
That's why I made him sit on the other side of the table.
He was too close.
All right, let me go back to Jason English. He's our former assistant of DA. He's an attorney in Austin, Texas. And Jason deals with, Jason, tell us, what cases do you deal with?
Michael, I handle a whole lot of cases, but numbers-wise, most of it's criminal defense and DWI defense.
Man, DUIs. Have you ever dealt with anyone with a license to carry handgun? They got a DUI or?
For sure.
Really? Okay. And is it how easy is it? Sorry, for you to negotiate with the DA in trying to get that case maybe reduced down to a lesser sentence?
The way that most of the negotiations go is that you end up forfeiting the handgun, and then they will dismiss the possession of the firearm while you're intoxicated case, and then you just end up dealing just on the DWI. And most types, that's kind of the resolution that I have. So when I get clients, I let them know on the front hand, hey, what kind of pistol was it? Is this an heirloom? Is this something that you're going to be upset letting go? Because they're going to want us to forfeit it. And that's going to help us in our positioning.
All right. So mental note, make sure I carry the high point. Got it. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So then what about, so we're trying to get that reduced and get that, down to a lesser sentence, because if you have a license to carry a handgun, you get convicted of a DUI, then you're going to lose your license for like 7 years. And so, yeah, you definitely want to get it reduced down to a Class C misdemeanor, which is a lot better. So if it's a Class C, then you get to keep your handgun license. You won't get it revoked or anything like that. All right, so, man, all right, what are some of the things that you find difficult in dealing with these cases?
Someone that's intoxicated with a weapon while they're intoxicated, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I don't know that we find stuff that's difficult. I think that's just a complication to the underlying DWI. I think the kind of where we are politically is the DWI is going to be the more important, the sexier case for the prosecutor's office to deal with.
Which is probably pretty common in Travis County, since we
I
have,
think so.
with our, party scene and stuff like that. You probably come across a lot of people that are in situations like that.
Correct.
All right. So trying to giving up your gun, that's one of the things to try to compromise. What do you
It's the
do?
same thing if you end up taking a gun to the TSA, the airport. A lot of times, you're going to have to be in a position to think you're going to forfeit that weapon.
Right, because in Austin, the Austin Bergstrom Airport is the worst airport in the entire country where people forget and take their guns through security. And so luckily at the Texas legislature, they came up with a bill that went into effect in 2017, where I nicknamed it the My Bad Law, where if you're in Texas, you're at the airport and you have your license to carry a handgun and you forget and you go through security, they have this little thing I call the My Bad. It was like, my bad. They actually will allow you to go and lock it up, put in your vehicle, and then come back through. But the TSA, the federal government, says, you know what? They can still fine you. I believe it's up to like $13,000. So it's a very expensive mistake to make going to the airport.
That's correct. I see both those as well. And I'm not always sure which way I see, because it seems like some people are allowed to take the gun back and then some people are not. So it's not always that consistent with what I see.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So what's some other cases you deal with?
Well, a lot of assaults, ag assaults, just, all the general stuff. I'm generally not taking any type of theft cases or burglary cases unless it's like an employee type theft.
Right. Now, what about all the protests? There were a lot of protests that we saw that took place in Travis County and Austin last year in 2020. In June, when all the protests and the riots started, and people were arrested for a lot of charges for things of that nature. Are you having to defend any clients? Have any clients in reference to that?
I've never seen any of those clients. I've asked my friends that are also doing defense work, and they haven't seen them either. It seems like that most of those cases, while they were arrested, they didn't end up being charged.
Okay. All right, because I know like the county attorney has decided to drop some of those cases and not prosecute some of them, but I'm not sure if it's any property damage or anything like that. So we'll see what happened, with that, because there's a change now. We have a different DA, and we also have a different county attorney now in 2021 in Travis County. And so the DA, the district attorney, has said that, what he's doing is he's going back. He's going back in certain cases, and he's coming back and he's actually prosecuting or trying to prosecute, police officers for things that they did back in like 2019, things before he came into office. He's going back and reviewing cases, that stuff. So I want to go back to that a little bit and talk about, as a police officer, because we talked about this earlier. We'll have to wait till after the break. I'll come back right after the break, and I want to ask you this question. So I'm going to talk about, dealing with, law enforcement. Have you, how would you mount a defense, against the DA, in protecting that police officer from being prosecuted for some of these, little cases like this? We'll talk about that when we come back from the break. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coleon Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. by all means you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate threat of harm that would justify an act of force or deadly force. Even in this situation, I would be...
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so a 25-year-old married to a 60-year-old man was sitting courtside making rude comments to LeBron James. And LeBron was like, he's having a conversation. He had a couple of words exchanged, with this 60-year-old guy. The guy said something, LeBron said something, and then all of a sudden this 25-year-old, this girl jumps in. He's like, at first, I thought that was his daughter. Then I find out it was his wife. He says, I was in shock. Listen to this.
Listen, let me tell you, LeBron James looked at my husband during the game and cussed him out, and I stood up and I go, don't talk to my husband. Talk to my husband one more time and I will you up.
No, at the end of the day, that's I'm happy fans are back in the building. I miss that interaction. I need that interaction. We as players need that interaction. I don't feel like it was warranted to be kicked out. There was a back and forth between two grown men, and which we said our piece. He said his piece. I said my piece, and then when someone else jumped into it and said their piece. But I didn't think they were, should have been kicked out. But they might have had a couple of drinks maybe, and they could have probably kept it going, and the game wouldn't have been about the game no more. So I think the referees did what they had to do. And it's fine. I don't think. Taking down the mask or whatever the case may be at that point in time, would have harmed anybody but the people that was right next to her. I wasn't close enough to her. I don't think any of my teammates was close enough to him. Maybe a couple of refs, maybe. So I hope they're okay. But safety first.
Dan. LeBron.
And you look like you're about to ask me. You look like you're ready to fire off.
Well, it strikes me, it's, as somebody, you've said all year, like, I want fans. I want to see fans. Does that get you more excited than when you see some people who are, like you said, a little willing to kind of tone those waters, whether it was in Cleveland or here, just seeing those faces that close to you?
Well, my guy tonight, he looked, I don't want to say he went overboard, but he went a little bit out of bounds, too close to comfort for me. And I said my piece, and we could have moved on. But I think it was so close to the officials. I think the official heard it as well, what he had said. And it kind of got blown out of proportion. You know, it's just like sometimes on the floor when two guys get into a scuffle, you know, or get into a little like Johnson and the refs come and try to break it up really fast and it looks like it's bigger than what it really is. That's what it pretty much was tonight. But the difference, we're on the court and we're not having any alcoholic beverages. So they might have had some alcoholic beverages on the side. So that it made them feel a little tougher than what they really are, I would say.
But to be clear, you were happy. You were happy that this happened, though, right? Like you enjoyed this.
Who, me?
Yes.
I love our fans. Laker Nation and everybody else that's against Laker Nation. It just feels better. Fans in the stands is just better. It's better for everybody. Especially on the last game of a 14-day road trip.
All right, so I like how LeBron James handled that situation. You know, he could have pushed it and escalated up to the next level, but instead he said, you know what, I said what I had to say. The guy said what he had to say, and then that was that. He let it go and let the refs handle the situation from there. That's kind of how the way he just gave this interview was very diplomatic, and I think that's a great way of handling situations like that. We can get angry and we can kind of push it, a little further, and then nothing good is going to come from that. But instead, he said, you know what? I like the fans. We need the fans. It actually makes a great game to have the fans in the stands. What do you think, Felicia?
I don't know. My thought whenever you kept bringing this up was like, why are you talking about the age difference between the husband and the wife? Because a woman can be stupid and open her mouth and run it at any age, regardless of how old her husband is. Like, it just seems like a weird fact to focus on in the story. If you are not housebroken, do not go into public, regardless of age, gender, or political affiliation. If you cannot walk out of your house and not be a bad human, stay home.
So Felicia,
just stay home.
Are you saying that she should have been better trained?
Yikes!
I'm
saying,
yeah, you did.
I'm saying that as a human being,
Uh-huh.
she should know how to act in public.
Uh-huh.
And if you are not, stay home.
Call Felicia.
It's like
don't call me. Call
it's like
Felicia.
if your 3-year-old is crying for a candy bar at HEB, you say, no, you're not getting this. They're going to throw a temper tantrum. That you pick up your child and you take them home.
All right, let's go back to Jason English. Jason, I was going to ask you something, but I changed my mind. I want to ask you about the game. So, who are you rooting for the Super Bowl?
You know what? You got a guy from Michigan. You got a guy from Texas Tech. I'm an Aggie. I can go either one. I guess I'd probably pull for Brady just to make history, but I probably like Patrick Mahomes more.
Anybody but Brady.
I'm not sure. I mean, if you're gonna own a football team, you'd probably go with Brady unless you're gonna look at the long-term play.
Right. But if you're a hater like me, you just wouldn't go with Brady at all.
Oh, I guess so.
Anyone but Brady, right, Felicia?
Absolutely. Plus, we'll always support a Texas boy.
All right. So we'll go Texas on this one. All right, that's what we're going to root for. All right, and who's your favorite basketball team?
You're asking if I have one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Spurs, no doubt.
Okay. Go Spurs, go. Absolutely.
Now, what's your best concealed carry piece? Handgun.
Hey, now, I try not to talk about that type of stuff.
I know. That's what I'm asking you.
I think the best one is one that no one knows about.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Everybody knows about all Michael's guns.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
But you carry two on you at all times, right?
You know the calibers if you don't know what they are.
A 45 and a 38 special.
Okay, that's all you need to know. But you can't describe them. They could be gold. They could have silver trim on
They're
it.
gold with platinum.
And diamonds.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, you just don't know. All right, so what do you think the best way to conceal carry is? Best way?
I don't know. I've wondered that myself because, obviously there's the best way to conceal it, but I don't know the best way to necessarily find it if you needed it. So the belly band, the ankle, under the jacket, on the shoulder.
Okay. And then the last one, I don't know if you heard about this case out of that happened in June here in Austin, where it was a sergeant in the United States Army who was working part-time for a rideshare company. And there was a protest going on downtown, and he dropped off a passenger on the 4th Street. He goes to Congress. He makes a right turn onto Congress When he makes that right turn, there were a group of protesters in the roadway, blocking the roadway. So he came to a stop. He looked to his left. Someone was motioning him to roll the window down. So he rolls the window down. And then he notices there's a person standing next to him with an AK-47, kind of holding it like in a high ready to him because he's in a shorter vehicle. And then the people around the vehicle started pounding on his vehicle, causing damage to his vehicle. With all that sound, and he's looking at this AK-47, he perceived this person was, a threat to him. So he had his handgun in his center console, between the seat and the center console. He reached down and grabbed for his gun. He pulled it out. He fired 5 shots, hit the person with the AK, stopped him. And then when he fired those shots, the crowd cleared. When the crowd cleared, he proceeded down Congress to 2nd Street, made a left turn to 2nd Street, stopped at that first hotel, and grabbed the phone and dialed 911 and called the police and waited for police to arrive. And so far, he has not been prosecuted. What are your thoughts? I don't know if you heard about that case or not.
Yeah, I think everybody living here in the community heard about that when it went down. It's just, obviously a sad situation, and it's going to be complicated. It's going to come down to, was it reasonable under the situation looking from his point of view? It's the same thing. We've had cases in the past where a group of people have surrounded somebody in a car, beating on a car down on 6th Street, and then they put the car in drive and they drive through the crowd trying to escape them. It's the same type of deal as, did they fear for their life? Was that fear reasonable in the situation? And were their actions reasonable under the situation?
Yeah, and I tell people, when I'm teaching the license carry handgun course, situation like that, don't try not to run anyone over, because nothing good is going to come from you doing that. And the media, the press, the community is going to look down on that, and you're not going to get a good jury. So don't run anyone over.
What would really have probably been a negative for him is if he didn't stop and call 911 himself. I think that's probably one thing that's going to come highly into his defense or something like that. I would be surprised and be taken into consideration on his reasonableness and showing, did he have a bad intent to go out and shoot people, or is it more reasonable how he's laying it out?
Right. And so far he hasn't been charged or anything. And so it could come at him from different directions because he's a sergeant in the United States Army, active duty. So he can be prosecuted on the Uniform Code of Military Justice and also the Travis County DA's office. So he can come from either direction.
And I assume that the family could probably sue him civilly as well.
Right. Hey, Jason English, how can we find you?
Well, you can easily find us on the website, jasonenglishlaw.com. You can call us anytime, 512-454-7548. I'm a former prosecutor. It represents good people who are facing criminal and drunk driving charges.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Jason English. Attorney in Austin, Texas. You enjoyed the Super Bowl, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Hey, you
Appreciate
too. All righty. All right, so that's Jason English, attorney with Austin, Texas. Used to be a former assistant district attorney here in Travis County, and great attorney. So definitely check him out if you need his assistance, Jason S. English Law. And we come back from the break. Oh, actually, during the break, we got a surprise for you. I want to talk about something. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hey, this is AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
All right, so this is for my Facebook and my Twitter fans here while we're on a commercial break here live on the radio. So a man ruptures his airway after indulging on a 10-inch penis. So a man who ruptured his airway after indulging on a 10-inch penis has been hailed a legend. So when he was admitted to the hospital, Freddie Alanis was initially reluctant to tell doctors how his throat had been injured, largely because his mother had accompanied him into the emergency room. But he eventually revealed to the medics that he had hurt himself doing an oral sex with a very well-endowed lover. Boy, I got to go to Zach. Zach. Boy, let me tell you.
I mean, I've caused some pain
Is this your
in
cousin?
my day.
Is this your cousin? Let me tell you. Boy.
I'll take that as a compliment.
This takes
Or
me.
no, not that guy. The other guy.
This takes me back to, who is that actor, that actually went to the emergency room because he got a gerbil stuck in his butt.
That's Richard Gere.
Yeah, that's right. That reminds me of Richard Gere. That's up there with that one. Boy, I tell you, the sound that I hear, when you say this story is like, what is it, Zach? What's that sound?
What do you hear?
I don't know. You tell me. You know what it did. Let me tell you, how do you do something like that? How do you, man, I would be so embarrassed. And then when you're looking at the story, he has such a smile on his face. Look at this. He has such.
He looks happy and relaxed.
He looks so happy and so relaxed. Let me tell you, you got to see that smile. This young man here, I tell you, this the things that make you go, hilarious. All right, we're gonna go back to commercial here. I just had to share that with my Facebook and Twitter friends here because a man
We can't say that on the air.
Can't say it on the air. He ruptured his airway after indulging on a 10-inch penis.
Thanks for that story, Felicia.
Thank you, Felicia, for bringing that to Come and Talk It.
Always willing to share the media I know that you guys love.
That's right.
This guy, you mean?
That's right, because size matters. All right.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so in the last 30 minutes here, and I tell you, it's beautiful looking at downtown Austin, Texas. Blue skies, not a cloud in the sky. I can see downtown. See my sky rise. It looks beautiful. Man, I love this city. And guess what? The camping ban is going to be back on the ballot. That's right, boy. We're going to put the camping ban back on the ballot. I know I shouldn't be talking about that. I should talk about guns. Well, it's about guns. Some people just want to shoot some people, so we want to calm that situation down. We're going to put the camping ban back on the ballot. What do you got, Felicia?
Negating the fact that the
people have
the camping ban.
They should have a right to sit and lie, Felicia.
Well, no, trying to negate the fact that violent crime has increased significantly since homeless were allowed to camp and lie wherever they want would be a false narrative. So it needs to be on the ballot.
Oh my God, this city-owned property. That's, you know what, Felicia? They should be allowed to just sit and lie wherever they want.
Actually,
oh my God.
Aren't the underpasses state-owned property?
Okay, well,
Hasn't that been a conversation
that's fine.
this entire time?
Okay, it's state property. Then it's owned by the people. They should be able to lay there because that's their property.
If it's owned by the people, then we should vote on whether or not they're allowed to sit and lie there.
Okay.
It should not be a unilateral city council decision because they're not the only ones affected by it.
Okay. All right, which guy, Zach? What do you think?
I mean,
since you're sitting so far away from us doing your social distancing.
I swear.
It is an issue.
You get COVID and it's like you have a dirty STD. I lived my life. I even wore a mask.
Oh.
And I still got it. Two times now.
It's a BTD.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, what?
A breath transmitted disease.
Ooh. Well, some people are double masking.
At what point do we just choose death?
Yeah. Do you double mask?
Do I double
He's not
mask?
even wearing a mask. I would like the record to show for those not
single
watching with
mask.
us.
He has a scarf.
I can
He
pop
has
a little
a bandana.
N95 right in here.
He has a bandana. He's
That works
obviously
pretty
not
good.
that worried, but he won't sit by me.
Some people double mask though. You know,
I'm-
that's the thing that's going around now. Double masking.
Triple masking.
Is it really? That's the thing.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
For
Well, I can't-
extra protection.
I can't say what I want to say. I may get dumped. So if you weren't listening during the break, we had a story for you. So a lot of people seem to want to talk about the HR 127. Man, why do people want to talk about this bill, Felicia?
Because it was written to distract them.
Because it's never going to pass.
Absolutely not. Sheila Jackson has not passed a gun bill in 25 years, regardless of sitting presidents and congressional makeup. I'm going to say that one more time. Sheila Jackson has not passed a gun bill in 25 years, but all of a sudden we're going to be all up in arms over this one.
But she's a powerful Democrat in the House.
She's absolutely not powerful at all.
You don't think so?
No one respects her. I don't think she respects her. I mean, she's a career politician. No one should respect career politicians. It's a distraction from anti-gun writers and budget bills and COVID relief bills, and they don't get press because they don't have snappy headlines and they don't tick people off the way HR 127 does. But it's a distraction and it's working. Every time you share a Facebook post about it, every time you talk about it, you tweet about it, you bring it up in conversation, you're playing directly into their hands. So stop doing it.
What are they trying to distract us from?
All the little anti-gun writers that they hide in the bigger bills.
Which one of those do you think is the biggest threat?
There's so many. I don't even know about all of them. I focus on Texas legislation. This is federal legislation. The biggest thing that you can do if you're worried about what's going to happen in DC is get involved and be prepared to show up to Austin and testify when pro-gun bills come into committee. That's the number one thing that you can do, because there are several bills that would prohibit Texas law enforcement from enforcing federal anti-gun laws. If you are scared of what's going to happen in DC, shouldn't you be working on Texas legislation that is going to prevent the enforcement of that legislation? Instead of complaining on Facebook, why don't you do something?
And what about the anti-gun bills this session?
There's a lot of anti-gun bills. There's a pretty solid committee. I don't know if a lot of the anti-gun bills will get hearings. We definitely need people to show up and testify against those as well. But what happened is, because of all the Bloomberg money that was coming into Texas during the November elections, the Democrats thought the House was going to flip, and it didn't. So they filed a ton of legislation right on early filing day, that Monday after the election,
Thinking that it would have
thinking that would have flipped and they would get all this anti-gun legislation passed. But really, it's just going to clog up the pipelines. Representative James White is the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, I believe, and he's more than likely not going to give most of those hearings.
There's nothing you're worried about right now?
Oh, we're always worried. When it comes to government, you never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we monitor everything constantly. We are constantly watching what legislation has been filed, and committee hearings should start happening in the next few weeks. So
Better watch like a hawk.
absolutely. Pay attention to Facebook, see what's going to happen, verify what you see on Facebook, but it is a good way to share information, because it's going to be a fight.
Do you have a list of any of the committee assignments that that we should, because that's Homeland Security. There's also I can't think of the other House committee. There's another House committee that we need to be concerned about also, and then also you have the Senate side. So I want to know who those.
Yeah, those committees were actually released a few weeks ago. Dan
Were they?
Patrick was pretty on
quick
it.
on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think much changed in the Senate like the House did. So the House
Yeah.
leadership changed.
The House had a lot of changes, just because there was a new speaker.
So for him to change, he completely changed the Homeland Security, because that was a
Well-
female state representative last time who was a Democrat.
It was Poncho.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Poncho was there. Okay. All right. So I have to wait like 8 seconds and then I'll see that. All right.
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Um,
And then You have
So Homeland Security, Representative James White is the chair. Vice chair is Representative Bowers. The members are Vicki Goodwin, that is a local rep here who Justin Berry actually ran against.
Okay, there we go.
And lost in the general. We have Representative Sam Harless, Representative Cole Hefner, Representative
I don't remember.
Eddie
I don't remember.
Morales.
I don't remember Representative Bowers. Representative Bowers, Rita Andrews. Is she a Democrat?
I want to say she is,
That-
but I don't know off the top of my
And I
head.
figured Vicki Goodwin would be on that committee because she really hates guns, so she'd love to have anti-gun bills.
And we have Jared Patterson, Matt Schaefer, and Tony Tinderholt. Tony Tinderholt,
That's a good choice.
Matt
Schaefer is a very
and
good choice.
Cole Hefner. They were all endorsed by Gun Owners of America. So those are very solid
Hefner, Cole,
pro-gun choices.
Yeah. Hefner, Cole's going to be good. Tinderholt, it's going to be good. Schaefer is going to be good. So very good, pro-gun people. And James White's going to be good. So as far as the chair,
absolutely.
so that's good. All right. And then, Representative Bowers. Okay. All right. So I have to do some research on that one. That's a new one for me. And then, okay, what about on the Senate side? I want to see that list.
I
on the
don't
Senate
have
side.
that list in front of me.
All right, so we'll pull that up. We'll talk about that also. There was this other thing I wanted to bring up, and that was in D.C., Representative Lauren Boebert, who promised to carry a gun to Congress, granted concealed carry permit. It's going to be the Senate Homeland Security. So Representative Lauren Boebert has been granted a concealed weapon permit in Washington, D.C., and police confirmed on Thursday that Boebert was elected to represent a conservative Colorado district last November following a campaign that heavily promoted her pro-gun stance and ardent support of the former President Donald Trump. In a video that went viral last month, Boebert can be seen vowing that she will remain armed while serving at the U.S. Capitol. And Metropolitan Police Department Chief Robert Conti revealed that Boebert had received a permit to carry a concealed gun during a Thursday press conference. And the concealed carry permit was issued in that case. And Conti said that after being asked about Boebert, there was a permit application that had been in the works with the Metropolitan Police Department. And as we do with all permits, if citizens are allowed to carry, then we grant them a permit. In this case, she was allowed to carry and she was granted a permit. So the Conti said that he did not know if additional members of Congress had concealed weapons permits, but was certain there are probably others. Now, the different thing with them in Texas, law enforcement, they're not allowed to tell anyone if someone has a handgun license. So that's going to be a little different in Texas. So you can't go, the police chief can't make a statement that someone actually has a license to carry a handgun. They're not allowed to do that. So there's actually something in statute that keeps them from saying stuff like that. Did you guys know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about more of these committee assignments. I want to, talk more about what's going on in the Senate, in Texas, also the Texas House. And I got another story I want to talk to you guys about. All right. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights, and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent, and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about what's happening in the Texas State Legislature and what's happening around the country. I want to talk about the Texas Senate and some of those committees there so that you know. Let's take a look at Texas Senate Criminal Justice Committee. And in the Criminal Justice Committee, we have Senator John Whitmire. There's no change there. Senator Whitmire's been there forever, as long as I can remember. And the reason, and Senator Whitmire, he has a passion. He's actually a Democrat, and he has a passion for the Second Amendment because he's a gun-toting Democrat. And one thing about Senator Whitmire is when he was traveling one day with his family, and they were returning from somewhere, an event or something, and they were in a parking garage, and they were held at gunpoint. And ever since then, he's been a strong advocate for the Second Amendment. Well, he's all about, you definitely should be able to carry a gun in a lot of different places. So Senator John Whitmire, that's no change in the Senate. Senator Joan Huffman, she's been there for quite a while. There's no change in that. Senator Paul Betancourt, Birdwell, Senator Juan Hinojosa, no changes in any of that stuff. Boris Miles and Robert Nichols. So that hasn't changed at all. So not much is changing in the Texas Senate as far as the committee for the Committee of Criminal Justice, which a lot of the gun bills will go through that Senate committee. And then let's go back to the other one in the Senate, which one did I say? State Affairs. So looking at State Affairs, there are some gun bills that actually goes through that committee. And you have Senator Brian Hughes, okay? So he's the chair of that committee. Senator Brian Birdwell, no change there. Senator Donna Campbell, Senator Bob Hall, Eddie Lucio Jr., Jay Nelson, Beverly Powell, Charles Schwartner, Judith Zaffarini. So, no surprises in that Senate committee. It looks like most of the surprises are going to be on the House side of things. Looks like that's where we're going to find a lot of those, oops, what's going on here? So going back to the House, looking at the House committees, looking at criminal jurisprudence at the Texas House, criminal jurisprudence. You have State Representative Nicole Collier. She was the chair of that committee last session as well. Representative Keith Bell, Jeff Cason, David Cook, Jasmine Crockett, and Representative Gina Hinojosa. She's very a strong advocate, with Moms Demand Action. She brings all the anti-gun bills and stands up, and that would be one person that's going to speak against every pro-gun bill. She's very anti-gun. Representative Ann Johnson, Andrew Murr, and Cody Vasut. So No changes there.
There's several freshmen who are very pro-gun on that committee.
Are there?
Jeff Kaysen actually
He's a freshman?
Yes. He replaced Jonathan Stickland, and he is fantastic. He is very liberty-minded, very pro-gun. Cody Vasut actually replaced Dennis Bonnen, who decided to not run for re-election. Very pro-gun. Looking forward to hopefully having them both co-author Constitutional Carry. That was filed by Representative Kyle Biederman. And then Senator Drew Springer actually filed a companion bill in the Senate for constitutional carry. And that's the first time that constitutional carry has been filed in the Senate since 2015. So in regards to some of the pro-gun bills that a lot of the gun organizations are looking at in Texas, we're doing really, really well.
Okay. And who filed the bill in the Senate?
Senator Drew Springer, who won his special election against Shelley Luther.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he definitely wants to make it easier for his next run there. So he's actually going to probably do some hard work this session.
He actually set a record. He filed 11 pro-gun bills in the Senate, many of them identical to some House bills, because we all know it's easier to get things done when you have bills going through the House and the Senate.
Right.
And this is
Are
the
they
first
identical
time
bills?
Several of them are.
Is the constitutional carry bill that's in the Senate that's been filed, is it identical to the one that's in the House?
There are several constitutional carry bills in both chambers. I don't think that any of them are identical to one another, but you also never know what bill's actually going to make it out of committee.
Right.
So they don't necessarily have to be identical for them to be effective. Okay. But we are pretty optimistic as far as pro-gun people go in the state of Texas.
Yeah, it's a lot better now that we got Bonnen out and also Pancho Cocaine Navarro.
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to get mad at Bonnen, and the way that he reacted wasn't appropriate, sure. But we've had Republican majorities for years. We had Republican speakers for years, and constitutional carry never made it. So did Bonnen help? Absolutely not. But we can't blame everything on him because there was ample opportunity before he was ever even Speaker of the House.
Now, what about, let's see, with this session here, is it going to be any different now we're in COVID-19, COVID-20, COVID-2021, whatever you want to call it, because of the Rona? Are they any different? Are they doing anything different, at the Capitol?
So you do have to wear a mask at the Capitol. I believe they're requiring a negative COVID test to enter the building. And
they're requiring you to get it elsewhere.
They
and
are
bring
testing at the Capitol prior to entry.
Oh.
Now, a lot of these rules are changing.
Are they charging
pretty
for 'em?
regularly? No.
No, free test.
So anyone who is interested in showing up to the Capitol, what I would suggest you do, and this is a mildly shameless plug here, is go to gunowners.org/Texas and sign up for our email list, because we have a legislative session only newsletter that goes out every single Monday called The Bullet. And it's just the list of bullet points of exactly what you need to know going into that week on session. That's where we'll start announcing committees. We'll be sharing research and talking points. And all of these questions that we're getting in the comments and that Zach and Michael are asking, we share that information on a weekly basis as it changes in those emails on our website, on our Instagram, and in our Facebook group.
All right,
Yeah,
so,
you'll stay on top of it. Sign up, people.
all right, so Thomas Harrison says, Abbott wants Texas to be a Second Amendment sanctuary state. How is that promise looking? What do you think, Felicia?
I think it really depends on how you define Second Amendment sanctuary state. What does that mean?
Mm.
No one, everyone's talking about it, and it's provocative, yeah, but I mean, it's like that movie quote, no one knows what it means, but it's getting the people going.
To me, Vermont's a sanctuary state.
There are bills being proposed that would give Second Amendment sanctuary state meaning and teeth. Currently, the way that it's being talked about by some of our statewide elected officials, it's an idea. It's, I want to run for president in 2024, so I'm going to throw the Republicans as bones so that they remember me in a few years. There's not a whole lot of tangible information or commitment there. In fact, when he gave his State of the State last week, it didn't even make it into his top priorities. It was like the 4th or 5th honorable mention. And again, we've had Governor Abbott in office since 2014. If he really and truly cared about constitutional carry and pro-gun bills, they would have been a priority before now. So yeah, we can get excited that he's actually saying pro-gun stuff, but when push comes to shove, everyone's going to have to get their butt to the Capitol to testify, or we're not going to be holding him accountable. And it's really a kind of we have to put our feet to the fire and see put their feet to the fire and see what happens.
So you can't
talk is cheap. It's time to put your money where your mouth is.
Can't let the Rona scare you.
Yeah, and they are going to be having some virtual options. It's a little kind of unclear on how that's going to play out once committees start. And again, that's information that we're releasing on a weekly basis.
If you let people testify remotely, we're going to be there all day. That's going to be a nightmare because when people show up and these committee hearings can go into like 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. I've been there to 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Absolutely.
Like
so 16-hour days just sitting at the Capitol.
And that's when people show up in person. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine them doing it remotely where you can be at home and testify. Oh, my goodness.
It will likely mean that testimony times are shorter, which means that you're going to have to be very concise and really know what the bill is talking about and really know what you want to say.
Like you got 30 seconds, go.
Basically.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. And that's why it's so important. If you see something going, quote unquote, viral about a bad bill filed in the Texas House or the Texas Senate, read the bill before you share something, because just because your neighbor Tom, who took a license to carry class in 1980 and has been pro-gun ever since and hoards ammo, says something happened and says that this bill is going to do something, doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. And you have to make sure you're not sharing fake news, because then that gets people riled up over the wrong stuff, and we miss opportunities to work on some good legislation that could pass.
All right, so there's a lot going on. And what about paramedics? You think paramedics should be able to, carry a gun in their line of duty?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. I think they should. Because they wind up in certain situations where you're a paramedic and all of a sudden there's no, they get there sometimes before law enforcement arrive on the scene. And if a scene is hectic, something's crazy, and their life is threatened, they need to be able to protect themselves. They're not law enforcement. They're not supposed to engage and do those things. They're there for life-saving purposes. But if they're in a situation where their life is threatened and someone's trying to kill them, because the person, situations get like that sometimes. Yeah, I think they should be able to protect themselves. All right. So, so I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. On a personal note, I think anyone who can legally own a firearm should legally be able to carry a firearm to protect themselves.
All right. So who you going for in the Super Bowl?
I probably won't even watch it if I'm being completely honest. I don't care.
All right. Who you going for, Zach, in the Super Bowl?
Hey, Mahomes, man. He went to Texas Tech also. Red Raiders, guns up.
Oh, that's right. Because Zach is a graduate of Texas Tech. I always forget that.
Right.
That's right.
I didn't even know you went to college.
Yes.
And I graduated.
Yeah,
We're not all perfect.
We just call him street trade. He's really not street trade. All right. So as always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.